Hi all, welcome to part 14, module 5, computer networks. So again, it's a continuation of what we discussed in the previous three parts, that is about the IGMB protocol. So please see part 11, 12, 13 and then come to 14, otherwise you will not get the continuation. So here we will see the encapsulation of the IGMB packet. So this is the typical view. So you know the IGMB is a network layer supporting protocol. So as soon as an IGMB protocol is being generated, as it is a network layer protocol, so first we will be adding the so it will be sent as the IP packet only, right? Because that is a core protocol of network. So whether it is ICMP packet or IGMB packet or any network layer information, it will be communicated ultimately as a IP packet, because IP is the one that all the individual routers can understand, right? So it will be encapsulated inside an IP packet. For that purpose we will be adding an IP header over the IGMB. So IGMB is typically an 8-byte data, something the structure we already seen. So that will be encapsulated as an IP data, and it IP header will be added. But when it comes to the data link layer, we have to take the support of the Ethernet or some other data link layer protocol for further communication. So Ethernet, if you look at the Ethernet frame, the inside that frame data, the whole thing will be coming, and in addition to that we will add the frame header and frame trailer. Together it will makes the complete frame. So this is how the encapsulation is done, and some more details about it. At the network layer, how the encapsulation is done. So first, if you see, first you have to recollect what we learned about the IP header. In IP header we have a field called protocol field. So that hope you remember. So that actually says what is the next what kind of protocol is inside this particular IP packet, something like that. So if it is a TCP based information, say some if it is an HTTP traffic or mail traffic, something, they will be using TCP. So TCP is having a number, so that will be mentioned. If it is a UDP based protocol, inside that IP packet, accordingly a number given to UDP will be used, something like a 17.6. Okay, some fixed number allocation is there, that is given by IANA, and particularly for IGMB the number is 2. So as per my knowledge, for ICMB it is 1. So that you have to cross check, some list will be there, you can Google it. And for IGMB anyways it is 2. Okay, so that is his protocol number. So this is different from port number. Again, another identification number only. Port number is particularly given for the application layer protocols, but as IGMB is a network layer protocol, it is not having the port number. Instead it will be assuming the protocol number, some kind of unique identification. So by looking at the protocol field in the IP header, any router on the way will understand that it is an IGMB packet. So because protocol number 2 is specifically for IGMB, so that is a fixed mapping, so that is a well-known mapping. So by looking at it, it will understand it as an IGMB packet, and accordingly it will be dealing it in a different way. Now every IP packet carrying this value in this protocol field has data delivered to IGMB protocol, so that is a default meaning. And another one, in IP header, again we have something called a TTL, time to leave, right? So normally we will set it with the maximum number of hop that a particular packet is supposed to have in the network. So every hop it will be decremented by 1, and when it is reaching 0, if it is not reached at the receiver, that means the packet is in a loop and it will be discarded. So that concept everything you know. But what could be the TTL value, particularly for the IGMB protocol? It's again very important concept. It has to be 1. Why it is 1? Because IGMB is something being generated inside a network, right? Like the membership request or a leave report or the query message, whatever it is, that is to be communicated inside a particular LAN only, because whenever that membership request is coming, it will be updated at the router which is in the boundary part, and similarly router will be sending that monitoring kind of messages that will be given inside the LAN only. So it don't have to there is no need for the protocol to cross the boundary at all. So that is why we are keeping it as 1. And in every hop, whenever it is one hop means one major router to the next router, when it is reaching and there only, that value will be decremented by 1. So if it is trying to cross, so no IGMB message must travel beyond a local area network. So that is the purpose of making this TTL as 1. So a TTL value of 1 guarantees that the message does not leave the LAN. Since this value will be decremented to 0, by the next router. So that is the next hop, right? And consequently the packet will be discarded. So the rule says that if it is 0, it has to be discarded. So accordingly we can prevent the IGMP message to travel to a different network because it is not needed. It is something supposed to be communicated inside a LAN only. So what about the destination IP address? Source IP address will be, of course, the who is generating that particular IGMP message, his IP will be given. It can be a router, then accordingly that interface, particular interface IP address will be given as its source IP. If it is generated by a host, its own IP will be given. But what about the destination IP? So there is something special about it, because if you are looking at the query message, there are two types of query, the special query as well as a general query. Whoever it is supposed to be received by every host in the subnet, right? So in that subnet, every system, some kind of multicast message is being received. So the multicast messages are in the range 224.0.0.0 to 239 to .255.255. So this is the class D address range, right? 255.255. Now within this, some special addresses were there, like the first address 224.0.0.1 is having a special meaning, and similarly leave report to 224.0.0.2. So these two things we are not using for identifying any multicast group. Instead they are having a special meaning, a fixed meaning always in the network, and it is like this. 224.0.0.1 means all hosts on that particular subnet. This .0.0.2 means all routers on this subnet. Here it is all system. All system means it can be a router or it can be a host. Here it is all routers only, right? It's because the context who is supposed to receive it. The general query or the special query, it is to be received by everyone in the system, of course by the other routers also, they can also communicate back. But if it is a leave report, the message is being generated by a machine as it don't want to continue with the particular group, so it will be generated in the leave report. So it is to be received by all routers in the particular network, and they are supposed to remove their entry from it. But before removing, they will send the special query, and they will ensure that no one else is interested in that group. So then only they will remove, otherwise they will keep it. So those concept So that time that destination has to be all routers. So we have a special address 224.0.0.2 that indicates all. So whenever someone is getting this address, it knows that it is for all routers in that network. Accordingly it will be delivered. Similarly the first one. What about the membership report message? So that is being generated by a host, and it is saying that I want to be part of this particular group. So that is a meaning. And also as a reply to the general query that will be periodically generated, in the sense that I still want to continue with the group. I am still interested in it. So that is a meaning for the first interest, as well as when someone is asking, are you still interested? Yes, I am still interested. In both ways this membership report is being used. And whenever it is showing that I am still interested, that will be broadcasted, and on the way someone else is seeing it, they will be removing their timer. So those things we already seen, and that time they should quickly fix that group, right? Then only they can remove that entry fast from their the timer fast from their list. So for making all this possible, what we are doing is the destination address is kept as a multicast address itself. So now this multicast address or the group ID will be kept at two places if you look at any membership report. So we already seen the typical structure of an IGMP message. There will be a type field, right? And what else? Type field is there. Here it is checksum, right? And here there is something called a response time, right? So these are all the informations, right? And in the next row, so this is an 4-byte field, and another 4-byte fully that 32-bit membership, that particular so if it is a membership report, of course for other cases also, other than the query, membership report, leave report, they are all a special query also. All the three were keeping the multicast group address here. So the multicast group address or the group ID, group address will be kept here, and the same, and this is the typical IGMP packet, and you are going to encapsulate this packet inside an IP packet. So by adding the IP header over here, so this is the IP header, and together it will make the IP packet, and further we will add the data link layer, header and Taylor. So that is the way. So when you add this IP header, what are all the things we seen, like the protocol field inside the header should be, the protocol field has to be 2. meaning that it is an IGMB packet. So whoever is looking it, they will understand that. The TTL field has to be 1 because it don't want to cross that particular network boundary. And there are other fields also. We will fill all other fields, and source IP we will mention our own IP who is generating it, and what is the value that is stored in the destination IP. And the destination IP address for query message, this value will be kept, and for leave report this will be kept, and for membership report, right, query in the sense general query and special query, okay fine, but membership report alone, if this is a membership report packet, this destination IP will be the same one. That means the same multicast group address will be kept inside the message as well as here. So what is the purpose, what benefit we are getting by keeping it in the destination IP field, means by looking at the header, IP header itself, all others can understand that which group we mean, and immediately they can turn off their timer. So that kind of an additional benefit we are getting, and for means if something happens to this, still we have the inside information. So some kind of double reliability also we are keeping. So in different sense you can independent. Mainly this is maintained because whenever that membership report is being generated as a reply to the general query, the same membership report should not be duplicated, right? So on the way it will be received by other host, and if they are also keeping a timer for the same group, they are supposed to cancel the timer. For that purpose, it will be easy for others to see that IP header, and by looking at the IP destination IP part, otherwise they have to remove the IP header and they have to go inside the and see the multicast group address. So both are fine, but this will be make things faster. So that is the purpose we are keeping the destination IP address of the membership report to be the multicast address itself. So we are keeping it at 2 places. Yes, we will see the theory part. The query message, whether it is special or the general query, it will be given to the multicast special address, that is 224 dot. So something you can remember because it's something special and unique worldwide, and this is for the query message. So that means that every system in the machine, that is host as well as router. So the all hosts and all routers will receive this message. That's the meaning the membership report is multicast using a destination address equal to the multicast address of the group itself. That is the group ID itself. So every station that receives the packet can immediately determine the group from the IP header itself for which the report has been received. So as we discussed, so the purpose is like the timers corresponding to the unsent reports can be cancelled faster if they are also for the same group. The stations do not need to open the packet and find the group ID. So like that we are saving the time. So this address is duplicated inside the packet also. So it's part of the message itself and also a field in the IP header. So duplication of course prevents error. If something happens with the inside or the outside part, the other one will act as a duplicate. So we are giving one more layer of protection. A leave report message is multicasted to this particular address, and what does this means? All routers on the way, because it is supposed to be received by all routers, so that the receiver, okay. Host receive this message to, of course, as it is broadcasted, it will be discarded by the other host. So that about the encapsulation of the IGMB packet inside a network layer IP packet. Now we will see how it will be encapsulated at the data link layer, of course inside an Ethernet frame. So at the network layer, IGMB message is encapsulated in an IP packet and is treated as an IP packet. However, because the IP packet has a multicast address, ARP is particularly for dealing with the unicast address only. Unicast IP address, ARP will give you the equivalent MAC. But multicast IP address, how ARP can give equivalent MAC? Because there will be a number of devices part of this particular multicast group. So it can't give you a number of MAC addresses. So ARP will fail in whenever it is a multicast IP address. But it will work fine for unicast IP address, right? So what happens next depends on whether the underlying data link layer supports a physical multicast address or not. So multicasting, what we see in so far is the network layer multicasting. Similarly, broadcasting also I told you the logic multicasting and physical multicasting. The network layer multicasting and broadcasting you can think of, and data link layer also you can think of the same one. But all data link layer protocols are not going to support the physical multicasting, but we are fortunate in the sense the Ethernet is supporting it. So most LAN support physical multicasting, particularly this Ethernet will do so. So if you look at the Ethernet address, we have a special physical multicast address, particularly for the TCP/IP protocol, and the address is starting with the first, Ethernet address is totally we have a 48 bit address, and out of this 48 bit, the first 25 bits will be something like this. So what you can do is you can group it by 4, and you can interpret its equivalent hexadecimal for remembering. So 40 it will be 0, another 0001 it will be 0101. So this is how we are representing the MAC address, right? The 8 bit we will group in, and 6 such parts will come. So again 40, again 40, so it will be 00, right? So 0101 is the next 4 bits, which is 5101. 1110, wow, who is this? This is D, right? The equivalent value. So yeah, D, and followed by on 0 is there, and of course the remaining 3 parts. So like that the physical multicast address will look like. So this is the how it is interpreted. So by looking at a MAC address, you can see by looking at the most 25 bits, if it is 01005D or its equivalent binary, every machine will understand that this is for multicasting and it is not for unicasting, right? Now what about the remaining 23 bits? So out of the 48 bits, the first 25 bits will be fixed just for the unique identification that it's a multicast address. Now remaining 23 bits, what they will do is they will take it exactly from the IP address. So the remaining 23 bits can be used to define a group, right? And that can be randomly fixed, but what this Ethernet is doing, so yeah, what it is doing we will see. So before that, so this is how it looks like, right? 01005D. Sorry, so is it E? Ooh. So it is going like this. 1010 is A, 1011 is B, 1100 is C, sorry, 1101 is D, 1110 is E actually, sorry, as I mistakenly taken this. Yeah, next it is F. Next it is F. So so this was E, sorry, it is not D, right? So this has to be E, okay? So this is actually F. So this is the thing, right? Yeah, so 01005E, 01005E, and what about the remaining part? They can vary from all zeros to all ones, so that it will be FFF, means 541 will be F. So why it is 7F here? Because 25 bits are fixed, so all combination we are not looking at it. So the first bit is forced to be 0, and the remaining bits can go from 000 to this bit has to be 0, okay, and the remaining bits can go like this. So that is why when you look at the last address, it is found to be, so this is 0 0, so this part, right? But if you look at the last address of that particular part, it will be 0111, that is 7F only, it is not FF, okay? So hope it is clear. So that is the thing. Now to convert an IP multicast address into an Ethernet address, what we will do, the remaining least significant 23 bits of the class D address will be taken as it is, and it will be inserted into the 48 bit, and that will make the physical multicast address. So something like this. So you know, the class D address will be identified by the most significant 4 bits to be 1110. So all those things I discussed when we discussed the IP address. Out of the 32 bit combination, if an address is starting from 1110, if it is starting with the, hope you remember, 0, it is for class A, right? Then 10 is for class B, 110 for C, and 1110 is for D. So like that. So if it is starting like this, this is for the identification part. And other than this, we have a remaining 28 bits, but out of this 28 bit, we will be taking the least significant 23 bits only. So this, so here we have 23 bits, here we have a 5 bits, and here we have a 4 bits. So together it is making 23 plus 5 plus 4, 32 bits. So this 23 bits we are taking as it is into the 48 bit Ethernet address, and the 25 bits we have that fixed value, that is 00, sorry, it is 01, 0100, oh god, 01005E, something like this. Okay, and this we will copy. So now you will be thinking, what about these 5 bits? That will be unused, and there is a problem also because of this, because this 5 bits, 32 combination of, for all those 32 combination, it can imagine for this 23 bits. So these 5 bits are supposed to be 0. If it is not 0, it may create some confusion. That will be handled in a different way. I'm not going that level. Anyway, if you are interested, you can read textbook, you will understand. Okay, so anyway, for the time being, you can assume that it is 000 for a valid address, something like that, and this 23 bits will be copied as it is. Otherwise it may create a confusion, and it is to be resolved in a different way. Now the thing is that if there is no physical multicast support, so we have to see that scenario also, right? So Ethernet is providing physical multicast support, and it is dealing that encapsulation in the way that we discussed so far. But if particular local area network or a wide area network or a particular network subnetwork is not supporting this physical multicasting, particularly if you look at the wide area networks, right, they are not having the physical multicast addressing support. So once you reach the LAN, you can make use of the Ethernet multicasting concept, and you can do everything. But for the global routing, when it comes to the wide area network, how you will do this multicasting among the routers, right? And that time there is no such physical multicast support for them. And at that communication at that level, that is between the routers, what we will do is we will take the help of normal unicasting, I mean data link layer unicasting, and with the help of that unicasting, multicasting is handled by means of the tunneling, because you will take a unicast message and insert that unicast message, the multicast message will be packed or encapsulated, and it will be communicated. To send a multicast packet through this network, a process called tunneling is used, something we already seen in our previous video. In tunneling, the multicast packet is encapsulated inside a unicast packet and sent through the network, where it emerges at the other side as a multicast packet, something like this. So here we have a multicast packet. It is to be delivered to many, but it's in the next layer. It is in the wide area network only. Local area, we are handling it in a different way. What we will do, the multicast IP datagram as a whole with the header and data together, we will encapsulate inside a unicast IP datagram, and its header will be added. And now at this header, some unicast address, everything will be. So it's again will go for more discussion if you have to understand it detail. So for the time being, you can understand it like this. For IGMP packet, if you want to communicate in a wide area network, it's not possible for us to have that what called encapsulate. So they were not providing such support. In that time, it will be encapsulated inside a unicast IP datagram, and it is communicated as it is, right? Yeah, by the process of tunneling. Thanks for watching. So with this, we will conclude our discussion on IGMB. So far we saw what are all the things. We started our discussion from a basic idea into IGMB, then we moved on to the different types of IGMB message, the structure of the message. So we dedicated some 4 videos for that. Please watch all of them, and how these different IGMB operations were done, and the delayed messaging, delayed response, that concept. And finally we end our discussion on the encapsulation of this IGMP message inside an IP as well as inside a data link layer frame. Yes, thanks for watching.